Council meeting on February the 11th at 5 o'clock. But before we do get started, we would like to take a moment to share our thoughts and prayers with the Tumbler Ridge community and the families, friends of all those impacted yesterday by this devastating incident. And as well, our thoughts and our thanks go out to the first responders as well. This is unbelievably sad in our small communities, and we just want to let Tumbler Ridge know that we stand with you. So our prayers and our thoughts are with Tumbler Ridge. Okay, we're going to move on to bylaws and policies. There's a recommendation or zoning amendment bylaw number 1115/2026. 509 Shuswap Avenue. There's a recommendation that the District of Sycamore zoning amendment bylaw number 1115/2026 be given first, second, and third reading this 11th day of February 2026. Can I get a mover on that? Councillor Rich, Councillor Beach. Nicole, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, thank you. Through the script. So tonight we're looking at 1209 Shuswap Avenue. The property is outlined in red there. It's kind of in the town center of main Shuswap. The OCP has it designated as town center, and it is currently zoned C1, local and town center commercial. The proposal tonight is to rezone the property from C1 to R1 for the existing single family dwelling, and to rezone the property from C1 to MUR1 for the unused portion of the property behind the home. The rezoning would support a proposed two-lot subdivision to break the existing home away from the rest of the lot, and then use the larger lot for a multi-family dwelling development of approximately 12 units. Under the official community plan, town center, it supports a wide range of mixed uses, including multi-family dwellings. This proposal is generally in line with the OCP. The zoning itself, right now, the home that's on the lot is legal non-conforming in the C1 zone. The proposed zoning to R1 would address this and allow the owner to do future improvements on the home that may not be supported under the C1 zone. The owner has no plans for commercial business on the property and would instead like to propose rezoning to MUR1 and add additional housing to the property instead. Because the rezoning is to support subdividing the lot, a specific regulation under MUR zone specific to this property only has been added, and that would recognize the panhandle to the multifamily dwelling lot. It doesn't meet the typical 15-meter frontage. It's proposed at around 6.93 meters, so it's been recognized to be as little as 6 meters in this zoning bylaw. So the bylaw itself would rezone the property from C1 and then permit this 6-meter frontage to Shuswap Avenue for the panhandle. Okay, Planning and Development Committee. So we had a number of discussions about the town center core at these meetings and around what it should look like. And in general, the idea was south of Main on Shuswap could be more residential. And then there was a desire for north of Main on Shuswap to be more commercial. So in this slide, I've kind of circled that town center core that's been discussed before. And you can see some pockets of residential now south of Main Street in yellow. But those are some recent rezonings that have been so yeah, this proposal doesn't specifically align with those conversations, but I would say all applications that are presented to council that meet the OCP and are generally have good planning practice and merit should be reviewed accordingly. After the KDC discussion, the owner provided a letter, and that's been attached to the staff report. It just provides some additional rationale on why he's proposing what he's proposing. The slide here shows what the core could look like in terms of zoning if this was approved. So we have another pocket of residential in there. Couple discussion points, because there are some benefits or pros and cons to rezoning the property. On one hand, rezoning to R1 still allows the owner or any future owner to rezone to commercial when the home has outlived its use, because the town center designation of the OCP supports that. But rezoning to R1 also means the owner or future owner could demo the home and build a new one, and it could remain residential for quite some time. Something to think about. Leaving it as C1 preserves the commercial use on the property, but that single family dwelling would forever be legal non-conforming. And then the C1 zone, we should keep in mind, is pretty generous in what it allows. So we could have a number of different uses on that property as is. Restaurants, retail, hotels, that sort of thing. So I would say benefits and drawbacks to the proposal. Okay, ultimately, after a lot of discussion, the PDC passed the following resolution to recommend that council approve zoning amendment bylaw 115/2026 as proposed. In the future, if this was approved, then we'd be looking at further development permits and a potential development variance permit for zoning and subdivision development servicing requirements. But that would come at a later meeting. Couple other info, so internal department referrals, no concerns in general with the rezoning. We would probably have more comments if the development permits came forward and there were variances to setbacks, things like that. June and myself met with the fire chief and we walked through the development with him, and he proposed some high-level comments for the developer. We relayed those along with the engineering servicing report from operations for what improvements would be required on Shuswap Ave. So the developer is thinking about those. There's no public hearing for this because it is housing. So we've advertised that appropriately. And then after third reading if successful, Ministry of Transportation is required to approve it after third before adoption. So those are some other things for us to consider. And then the recommendation ultimately tonight is that the zoning amendment 1115/2026 be given first, second, and third reading today.
Thanks, Nicole. When I was away and I zoomed in, we had a piece of property on Riverside that we did not have any commercial space, and it's kind of been on our OCP, in our OCP and in previous council's thoughts that we needed to keep some commercial on Main Street. So that passed without commercial. Is there any way that we can keep, my personal preference on this piece, I love the housing, it's brilliant. But my personal preference on this piece is to keep the front of it in zone C1, because you're right, you can't go backwards, but you can definitely go forwards on this. So zoning it for housing, as opposed to leaving it as commercial right now, takes away that commercial component that we're looking for on Main Street. We don't have a lot of commercial, and if we continue to give up our space on Main Street with no commercials, no commercial space, then we're gonna have housing downtown and no business component to be, there, people are gonna be driving to get to a business because we have no commercial. So I love the housing, but my suggestion would be to keep the commercial, the front of that property zone C1 right now. That's just my preference. Councillor Bailey and then Dean.
Yeah, we had a fairly significant discussion about this at planning and development. There was several of these things that you pointed out as well that came up in discussion. The one thing that I didn't see, and I want to make council aware of, because we had kind of this discussion at planning and development, is once we subdivide it, both these are two legal lots. So one lot could be sold off, or both could be sold off, right, as two legal lots. So what we're doing, and it's not necessarily a problem, but it's just something to be considered by council, is that we're taking what was one lot now and we're making it two different lots, and we're zoning it, or potentially zoning it, as two different components on that same lot. So the other thing that I just wanted to bring up to council for their consideration too is that we have several other lots along that Shuswap Street that could easily be similar things could be done with it because they're large enough. And again, not necessarily a bad thing, but it is something to be considered. I personally see the value in doing this, just because these are larger lots. We need some infill housing. I certainly like that idea. I agree with the mayor. I like that idea. I just want to make sure that when we're rezoning it, that we're not rezoning it for an MUR1 and then that lot gets sold as an MUR1. I actually want the development done, right? I don't want to have, I mean, often in Vancouver, what happened is we ended up inflating land prices because we added extra density to the land. And then once it got zoned for that, then it got flipped. Oh, hey, this is already zoned instead of single residential. It's now multi-unit. It's worth more because you can build more on it. So what I don't want to see is us get in that situation. But if we're actually getting housing out of it, then it's just going to be a balance, right? Can we get commercial on the other lots? Because they're still, I think, zoned commercial, the ones that are down. But again, they're it's kind of a weird situation because we got housing on it, right? We got actual housing on things where we actually do want commercial. So it's a little bit of a tough one, but I would say the only thing that we have to ensure is to make sure that we're not rezoning and we're just rezoning for higher density, but we're actually not getting the density. So I just wanted to bring that up to council because those are some of the issues we had or we discussed at P&D, but ultimately we are recommending it.
Yeah. And I understand that. And I do understand that there's a lot of other pieces like that down that street. But where do you draw, how do you set the example? Like, where do you say, okay, you can be all housing and no commercial, and you can be all housing. You're going to be, you know what? I mean, you're setting a precedent right now with everything. So, yeah. Go ahead, Dean.
So speculative zoning is what Councillor Bailey was talking about. Communities make efforts to prevent speculative zoning. We would not bring forward a supporting recommendation on an application that didn't include a development plan for it. And this is what you saw in bigger communities in the Lower Mainland as well, where people were buying land and just getting the rezoning and then increasing the land value by doing so, called speculative zoning, and they would get the zoning and they'd sell it for more. So that's been discouraged quite strongly here in Sycamus, and we're certainly would not support an application that was obviously doing that. In this case, we do have a development plan. It's for a housing format that we don't have underway in the community. It's something we need. So there's benefits that way. The other component to it is we're allowing the OCP to stay as is. So the intent is for the future for that lot that's going to be created to be commercial. Likely the depth of those properties is too big for commercial venture that close to Main Street. I think the vision in the past was for larger commercial uses that likely will not happen on those properties. So having it broken into two segments will increase the viability of commercial on the front portion. It is a single family dwelling. By rezoning it to single family zoning, it allows for them to be legally conforming. That allows people to pursue their financing and particularly their insurance, and makes it more readily available for people to purchase as a single family dwelling. The opportunity to have a commercial in the future when the community is ready for more commercial, I think is still there. I think from a planning perspective, by maintaining the OCP designation for it, as Nicole mentioned in her report, there's a lot of uses that are permitted in that zoning. When you rezone it to a residential, you're requiring someone to rezone in order to get commercial back. You as a council then retain a level of control on whether you support it or not. If somebody leave it C1 and someone comes in someday after this house has run its life, tears it down and just builds something there, as long as the use is permitted, council does not have the ability to say no. You're going to be forced to accept whatever they decide to do, whatever the zone allows. So this will give you some control for the future. Today is not the time that we want to see Shuswap develop as commercial main floor for the length of it. We've got other commercial properties that we need to see filled up and completed. in our neighborhood, but we don't want to lose that potential for the future. I think the subdivision allows that to retain. You've got that lot at the front, which is your more viable commercial component. It fits with the commercial landscape further north with the other units that are there. It's likely where that street would go is in that softer, kind of shorter parcel size for commercial development. I think what you see there is probably most viable, which is not a 180-meter deep lot, but a shorter lot with parking and so forth, maybe close behind, but likely out front. So I think the future is still there for the community, but we're not really ready to see Shuswap go commercial at this point. We got portions of Maine that we really need to see have happen first.
Councillor McCabe?
Thank you. Sorry, I had to lower my hand and then unmute my mic. Yeah, thanks.
Complicated.
Yeah, I might have missed something, but in the diagrams there, I didn't see a lot of green space. I didn't see a lot of parking. Don't we have a minimum green space requirement? Isn't there like a half a parking lot required per unit or one parking lot required per unit? So maybe I missed something, but could you please touch on like where's the green space? I don't see any, and it's a multifamily unit, so you got to assume there's going to be kids there. And where are they going to play? You know, and where's the parking?
Go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you, through the chair. So those details would come out at the development permit stage, and we have all met with the developer and talked about those parameters. So having more space, like you mentioned, for kids to play, dog park, whatever it is, where the garbage is located, how the fire truck can get in, where does garbage truck go? And then, yes, the number of parking spaces, and they're not allowed to be in the panhandle. So we've discussed a lot of those details with the developer, and now they've gone back. And actually, when I walked by the property the other day, I saw there's a bunch of staking in the yard. They're still working out those details. So those drawings that are in the slides are super conceptual and might change, and those details would come at the development permit stage, but don't necessarily affect the rezoning. It would just prepare him to be able to do that multi-family dwelling development there.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I read the letter, of course, at the end of it, and it made a lot of sense. And while this is technically on Main Street, it's in more Shuswap Avenue. So I think it's a pretty good plan. And like was said, the plans still have to be refined and cleared by us. So I'm not too stressed about this.
So, and I guess sorry, go ahead, Dean.
Okay.
What is I don't see the necessity to rezone the front of it to from C1 right now. It's non-conforming, but that's okay. There's a house on it anyway, so it can stay non-conforming, can it not?
It can, but it makes it very difficult for financing and to sell it. So if you sell it as a legally non-conforming, you can't rebuild the house. Your insurance, for example, is normally 2 to 3 times higher for your annual insurance, but you can't rebuild your home on that property. Your financing, quite often mortgagers won't give you financing for a mortgage for a house if you can't rebuild it on the insurance. So it's very, very difficult. It makes it complex for development. The caveat to a lot of these smaller scale developments is they actually need the property to retain its existing value in order to get the financing to do the new builds. So they need the property, they purchase the property, they own that property, that's the asset they use in order to get the financing to build the multifamily at the back. They need that asset to still have the value the day the bank gives them the money to build the multifamily, or else they're not going to get the financing they need to build. So it's kind of a chicken and egg for developers, especially the small scale ones. This is a kind of home built kind of developer that we need to do this infill work. And this is kind of how all the model works. We saw a lot of this in Kelowna where we saw big developments with single family dwellings staying. And it wasn't there because they just had an affirmation. They loved the single family dwelling. In order to make their financing work, they had to. Banks required them to retain the value of the property. The moment they tear down that house, they lose $600,000 in their pro forma, and they can't make the pro forma work with the banks. So there's a financial reason for that. The other part of this I wanted to mention is that we've got a bit of a chicken and egg in our downtown area, Main Street and that whole neighborhood. We need people there. People are there will support more commercial development, and that's where the chicken and the egg kind of, we're a little bit out of balance. We got too many square foot of commercial versus residential. We're working really hard as a community to get that better balance. We've got 2 major buildings going up. Hopefully we'll get another one in that area. These types of infills are going to begin to create that marketplace where commercial is going to make more sense, and then the rest will come. So we have to get people living in and around that area, using that commercial directly. We have a lot of people that move in the community and shop in the community, which is great. But having people actually live directly in the neighborhood makes a difference. But where we get these opportunities to add more people, we're creating more commercial market, and we're going to create more commercial energy for these other properties to redevelop.
And having said that, anybody else, having said that, though, we don't have a lot of property on Main Street in the net core for commercial, for growth for commercial. So again, you're absolutely right. It's the chicken and the egg. But I'm just saying, if we rezone this C1, then to MR1 or residential, then it doesn't have to be put back to C1. So it's, and I get the financing. It's just that I really feel like we do need some space downtown for growth, and we do need some commercial space. I think that as a community, we're getting a lot of residential, and I love the housing. Don't get me wrong, I love the infill of housing there. But we still need, as we're growing, we're gonna need space for growth, for commercial growth, for, you know, restaurants, coffee shops, whatever, bike shops, things like that in our downtown core. Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, I certainly agree with you there, Pauline Mayor. I would say though, you know, we want to just take a look at kind of where we do have commercials coming online. We are going to have 3 more units as part of 425 Main. That will have to be absorbed. I think the other one, there's currently a space open on Shuswap that is yet to be absorbed as a commercial. So I think it's right beside, it used to be the old Work BC place that's available again. There are some out on the highway as well to be absorbed. So, you know, we've kind of, we balance that too in terms of how do you go forward, and I feel like there's also this issue about commercial, right? Like when people say they want commercial, they want it at a certain price as well. Well, any kind of new build commercial, you're going to get into the $30 a square foot range, right? And then that sometimes doesn't allow you to economically run the business that maybe you would like to, right? You need to make a certain amount. So there's that as well, right? There's the chicken and the egg on how much is that commercial going to rent for versus how much can a business sustain it for. So, but in terms of us having to fill out Main Street, I totally agree. But I also want to make sure that we don't build too much, that we have actually empty storefronts too. So this is like a really delicate balance, and I had some issues with it too, but then I ultimately landed on, okay, let's do this. We're not saying that the whole thing is going to be turned over to residential, but I certainly see the dilemma. But I think on whole, this is a good trade-off, and I think it's something worth trying on a lot that I agree with Dean. It's, you know, how do you build this out on a commercial basis? It's long, and it's narrow at the front and long in the back, and this seems like something that might actually work. So yeah, I'm supportive.
Gord?
Yeah, I support it too. I see where you're coming from, Colleen. It's just, you know, you got the chicken and egg thing. We need purpose-built rentals, and we need a few more residents in Sycamoose to make our economy really flow well. And it's you know, if you say no, the developer goes somewhere else, right? And that's what happens, if you say no. So I support it. It's first, second, third reading, and yeah, we'll see more once we get to the development permit stage, but, yeah, I support it.
Councillor Rich.
For the chair, yeah, I support this too. I think the other thing it does is bring walkability to town. And we're bringing residents that are gonna be living right downtown and shopping downtown. And I think that's huge. I know we don't have urban sprawl, but we have a little urban sprawl. And if we can get people living downtown, then that's gonna draw more businesses. So I support this also because I think bringing homes right down where it's walkable, will bring more money into the community.
And yeah, and I don't disagree, but we still, those people need to walk to shop to something, right? So it's, again, I'm concerned and yes, maybe we move forward on this one, but we just have a look at what sort of commercial space for the future that we want downtown and what that looks like, our sort of our downtown plan. So I think that maybe we do that, we move this one forward, but we do sit down and create a downtown plan. Councillor Beach.
Yeah, Chair, that's kind of always been what I thought we should do is kind of look at generally at the downtown and look at how we can incorporate living above the businesses or just another configuration to get people downtown. And so this is, yeah, we're starting to go down thinking of going down Shuswap Avenue, but we need to have a bigger plan, I think, for how to encourage people to actually move and live in the downtown area.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
Comment that I think, as we begin to look towards a mandate of new council in the fall and what neighborhood plans should be undertaken, I think it's one that should be on council's radar. And it should be on for the OCP review when it comes in the future. Like a downtown plan for the Main Street area, it hasn't been undertaken for a long time. How that's gonna look and what that configuration is and what the markets have done. Because the world has changed quite a bit around us.
Mhm.
Commercial viability has shifted quite significantly. So we need to get a combination that will work and plan for the future based on that.
Sounds like a plan. Go ahead, Councillor Beach.
And just to go back to that, we need to do it before the building starts, because if you're going to go up, if you're thinking and end up with a design where people live above their businesses, those buildings and those businesses have to be built for that, right? So you have to have a longer term plan on how we're going to do that.
Well, that's something that we should perhaps look at with, for next council. Staff can put that on the to list. Okay, I guess that's it. Let's call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, moving forward, next generation 911 NG 911 2026 grant intake. Recommendation that council endorse a grant application in the amount of up to $45,000 for the next generation 911 2026 intake to be submitted by the district to the Union of British Columbia Municipalities. Could I get a mover on that? Councillor Evans, Councillor Bushel, June?
I'm currently working for district endorsement on the NG 911 2026 UBCM grant intake application. It's already pretty much outlined in the background of the staff report that was provided. But just to quickly go over, there is a federal entity called Canadian Radio, Television, and Telecommunications, CRTC. They have mandated that the engine that will provide for BC to the Palace to comply to the next generation 911 compliance. So there is a number of requirements that the district is required to meet, and the district staff has been working closely with the neighboring municipalities, including CSRD, City of Revelstoke, City of Bolden, and City of Seminar. There is a regional collaboration project that is ongoing that is happening thanks to the 2023 funding that was allocated with the amount of the 45,000. And through this grant, which is separate to the previously acquired 2023 $45,000 UBCN grant. Through this, we would like to inquire UBCN to possibly allocate 28,200 Canadian dollar. In the report, I mentioned that it's up to 45,000. That's the maximum grant amount that we can apply for. And just today, I received the report from a consultant, just to provide a more reasonable synopsis of what we were going to do and how much amount of money that you are looking for. So it encompasses the 4 programs, mainly. Based on the table, if the grant is successful, we would like to use up to $20,000 for district chemist address support. That's going to be a third-party consultant, additional support to the staff regarding basic GIS or the civic address update and quality assurance type of work. And we also anticipate to deliver number of the training, which is not only anticipated for the councils, but also neighboring municipalities, fire department, and the local rescue society, for example, Eagle Valley Rescue Society. So the reason for those 2 additional training is because of this is a mandate that we must comply to make the EMS and fire servicing more compliant and responsive to the standard that is demanded by the latest. So we'd like to bring more awareness for the council and the local fire department and collaborating agencies so that we know that why is required and what type of activities we must deliver to satisfy the new standards. So the reason why the recommendation tonight was formed is this is a council resolution is required as part of the requirement for grant submission. So if endorsed tonight, staff are going to move forward applying the grant tomorrow. We do have a application package for now. So although the deadline is a Friday, but the staff anticipates to complete and submit the application or along with the council resolution. Therefore, asking for the endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Council, do you guys have any questions? Councilor Rich?
Yeah, just through the chair. Just thanks, June, for bringing this to light. I mean, this costs us nothing and all it does is make our community safer. So thank you for bringing this to us. And yeah, I mean, this is going to be a firm yes for us. And I think it's probably going to be a pretty quick vote.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're going into the Southern Ontario Local Government Association SILGA resolutions that we are discussing to put forward to the SILGA convention. Dee, do you want to take, Shauna, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Thank you through the chair. So following the last meeting, staff went back and resolutions were drafted based on the topics that were brought forward. The first resolution is transparency of governance. And I think if everybody has read through their package, we've just gone ahead and put forth what we felt were council's wishes in that resolution. We have also provided in the correspondence, there was a letter from the city of Kamloops, just putting forth what their resolution to SILGA, and this would be very similar and in support of. Yeah, any questions? Just go through. We'll go
Each
through
one.
each one.
Does council have any questions on the first one? We're good with it? What do we need for confirmation to move forward with?
So you just have to come, the recommendations are listed, so you can do
Yeah,
that.
so you can read through and.
You want me to read through all of the, we got a firster and a seconder?
Yes.
Okay, for the first resolution, do I have a mover? Counselor Rich? Counselor Evans? Okay, recommendation, whereas municipalities have primary responsibility for local land use, planning and decision-making and rely on timely, clear and consistent engagement from the province of British Columbia where decisions or discussions affect lands within municipal boundaries. And whereas significant and precedent-setting court decisions related to land use in British Columbia, together with the provincial implementation of the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People Act and the Heritage Conservation Act, have created uncertainty for property owners and local governments regarding provincial expectations, legal implications, and future land use considerations. And whereas a lack of early coordinated transparency and ongoing communications with affected municipalities during the following such discussions as hindered municipality planning processes and undermined public confidence in local government and provincial governance. Therefore, be it resolved that UBCM urge the province to increase transparency by engaging directly with municipalities when the province is involved in discussions, decisions, or policy developments affecting lands within the municipal boundaries to reduce uncertainty for local governments and the public. Any comments? I am just going to, this is definitely a provincial government issue. I just want to state that they are not giving clear direction and causing some confusion. So our ask here is for the provincial government to clarify and have some transparency and discussions with municipalities, just to break it down. Okay, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Foreshore lease applications. Could I get a mover on the foreshore lease? Councillor Evans, Councillor Bushel. Recommendation, whereas the province requires and oversees application for foreshore specific permissions and leases for the placement and use of private moorage facilities on Crown land, and whereas application processing timelines for these approvals have become unreasonably prolonged, creating uncertainty, hardship, and economic challenge for property owners, communities, and local governments. Therefore, be it resolved that UBCM urge the province to immediately begin processing and issuing approvals for existing applications and commit additional resources to the administration and oversight of foreshore special permissions and leases in order to address approval backlogs, reducing processing timelines, and improve responsiveness to the community needs. That's a lot. Any comments? Councillor Rich?
Through the chair, I'm just wondering if we should put a timeline on this, and I don't know if we can do that, that we're expecting them to have stuff through in 12 months or 18 months or like not 10 years. So I don't know, Dean, maybe you can speak to that. Can we say, hey, we want this done within a time period? Because we've given them a lot of leeway on this, and we've got things that are 10 and 11 years old that are not being touched. So I don't know if that's acceptable, but if it is it something we add in that we say, okay, we expect that it's a 12-month or 18-month or a 24-month process, and then, you know, we have something to go, because what is a reasonable timeline? Obviously, they think 11 years is a reasonable.
In the, therefore it be resolved, we're asking for immediate.
But what's immediate?
Get their stuff together, get the files off their desk.
Which means what though? And that's my question, because immediate to me and immediate to you are very different. And obviously with the BC government, we're 11 years in on some of these. So maybe Dean can address it.
So I think that you're absolutely right. The timelines have been completely unreasonable. The timelines we get referred back to us when we see applications made are, we're expecting that these applications are averaging 6 months to a year. That's what they'll say back to us or back to the applicant. we want this to clearly commit to a timeline. So if you say it's gonna be a year, we're gonna hold you accountable to a year. That's what we're not getting. Right now, it's kind of ambiguous, so we need to get that timeline. If it's reasonable for them to finish it in a year, commit to a year. So hesitant to say what the timeline would be directly to them. We're not a part of that ministry. Those ministries are likely going through a lot of turmoil right now as we speak. So we apply a timeline, they respond it's unreasonable. That's probably not gonna help, but forcing them to commit to a timeline and be clear on what those timelines will be would be actually a step forward, because we're hearing a year, year and a half, and then 5 years later, we're still waiting. So give us a timeline that you feel you can meet and then stick to it. It's kind of the idea.
Yeah, and through the chair, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is we massage that in there somewhere as like just a definition of what immediate is, or what they can give us the expectation, but then we have something to hold them to. Because right now we are, like you said, I know people that are 11 years in, and hundreds of thousands of dollars in, and can't get mortgages because of this. So how do we hold them accountable, I guess?
So the process does that in a certain way, and if this was endorsed at Silica, goes to EBCM, goes to the province. The province does provide a response letter. Expectation is that response letter would include what you just said. The minister would review their capacity and their ability at that point in time, and in their response to EBCM would say, we're working at a timeline of 12 months. We're working at a timeline of 24 months, or else they're gonna say, we're working at a timeline of 7 to 8 years. And then they have to be accountable to the voters in this province that that's their timeline. Is that reasonable? I wouldn't think that anybody in this province would see that as reasonable. So that is where the accountability comes back. We're not setting the date. They're gonna have to set the date in response to an UBCM resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bailey, then Councillor Beach.
Yeah, I mean, this one's always a head scratcher, right? Like, we're not talking about foreshore leases that aren't there. These leases are attached to businesses already, and I think the issue really here is they're deliberately not doing them, right? Most of the ones that we're talking in our community have had businesses attached to these foreshore leases for, I don't know, decades, right? And they're waiting on just what should be routine renewals. So to me, there's two issues. One is, is it a new foreshore, or is it just a renewal? If it's a renewal, why does this take any time at all? And so I wonder if we should say, if it's just a renewal, why can't a municipality renew it? And why can't that be something at the municipal level once it's already gone through all the federal and provincial checks? These are existing businesses. So, I mean, unless they're going to say that, oh, we want it yanked out and we want to kill these businesses, then like, I just don't see how or why a municipality couldn't handle this, I guess. And I wonder if that's what we should be asking for renewals for existing businesses. Yeah.
Go ahead, Dean.
So to answer that question, there is the opportunity to request a head lease from the province, which the district has made the application to do that. What you just described would be the case under a head lease, where renewals and applications for new works would be actually to the district as the holder of the lease. Based on the criteria of the province, we would adjudicate those applications and they would be approved. The timeline would then be locally set. It would be at the control of the district. So that's the ideal situation. That was one of the rationale on why the head lease application was made. So that application was submitted last year, and we'll hopefully see some activity on that. We hope it's not been lost in the quagmire that's tied up other things for 10 to 12 years. But that application, one of the rationale behind that was exactly what you described.
So could I just suggest that maybe that we add, this is just a de facto kind of thing for municipalities to have? Like, why do we have to go through the whole head lease, right? I mean, the provinces, we could speed it up. Like, we have to go through right now, get a head lease, get their approvals, do all this, and then be allowed to do do it anyways. Well, why can't the provinces just, I mean, there's some good downloading. This would be a good download. Let us do it with existing leases and then we can figure it out. There's no reason for us to have to go through multiple layers here. So I'm wondering if that's what our actual motion should say. Give municipalities this power, period, rather than saying you guys do it in a timely fashion. I think that's might be better. I don't know. I just put it out there for discussion.
Yeah. And can I?
Yeah, of course.
The only problem with that is the province charges for the foreshore leases, right? So if we're gonna toss it out there as a blanket statement for all municipalities, I'm not sure the success we'll have. Right now, we're drilling down into, and we're pretty focused, laser focused with our consultant, Keith Weir, looking at that and monitoring that. And I think, Dean, you've heard from him not recently, end of last year, that it's still on the table, it's still in the works. So we're still moving forward with it. So perhaps this resolution just asking for a quicker timeline runs parallel with us looking for our own approval process in our community. So this can run parallel to what we're asking for, because if we do get a head lease, then it will be our responsibility and we will be collecting that, that foreshore payment. And yeah, so it's just a whole different process too.
So the two things were kind of separated by time. This is about applications that can be dealt with today. What we're doing with the head lease is something that's gonna take several years to get in place. A resolution to UBCM, this is about getting people and their businesses moving forward today. The whole component that you described, Councillor Bailey, about communities being given greater autonomy of their waterfronts and so forth. It's a very valid point. It would require significant legislation changes and changes to municipalities. I don't think many municipalities, we have a strong interest in it here in Sycamoose. Some communities do. Blanket across the province, I don't think we would see that many communities interested in supporting that. They do not want to take on that responsibility, nor that cost as municipalities to have that downloaded from the province. So I think this resolution is specifically about our businesses and our communities' activities today and our economy. And this is pushing for that to be addressed. It doesn't mean that what you're saying is not really important for the future, but I think it would be a separate resolution or a separate pursuit that I don't know if we get universal enough support to make it to UBCM and get through to go to the province.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, it's a great idea, Ian. I think like years ago, we went, Councillor Malmus and myself, we met with Keith Weir in regards to a head lease, and a lot of communities don't want to administer. They only have one lease, one or like Summerland, or they don't have very many foreshore leases, and it just didn't fly in their municipalities. But with a municipality like Sycamoose, he highly recommended a head lease. And the revenues that you generate from the head lease is negotiable with the province. You collect it and there's a negotiable rate. Whether it's 85%, you keep 50%. I'm not sure what that rate is, but it is negotiable. And then in regards to the resolution itself is really good. We're just being held by not just us, but every other waterfront community in BC is held up by notation of interest, AIAs. It's everything's come to a grinding halt, and they're just not issuing foreshore leases until until First Nations is appeased and are happy with it. And of course, it takes time for them to go through the process to do all these things, and it's just we need the province to work on this, because it's just every community is just tied up with their red tape, so it's a good resolution.
I think it's Pam, did you want to?
I see the need for getting it to be more timely for sure, and maybe that's more doable at this point, and we'll get some of these other pieces worked out along the way, so, yeah.
Malcolm, do you have anything?
No, thank you for checking.
Yeah, I can't see you.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm right here. Thanks for
okay,
checking.
sorry. You're having dinner, that's okay. Okay, so I'll call the question, all in favor of this resolution? And that's carried, thank you. Okay, is there a different, am I reading a revised?
We'll read the one that's put forth.
Okay, so we'll start with this one. Okay, so can I, public access to land, can I get a mover? And Counselor Beach, Counselor Rich, okay, recommendation, whereas decommissioning of logging roads without meaningful consultation or consideration of long-term public and emergency access significantly limits safe and reliable access to public land. And whereas maintained access routes to backcountry and public lands are critical for emergency response activities, including wildfire suppression and search and rescue. And whereas municipalities increasingly rely on backcountry recreation and tourism, particularly during shoulder seasons, to support local economies and attract residents. Therefore, let it be resolved that UBCM urge the province of British Columbia to maintain and protect public access to the backcountry and public lands by strengthening consultation, coordination, and collaboration between municipalities and BC Timber Sales when planning logging and road decommissioning to ensure access decisions support recreational, economic, and emergency response interests. Hey, do we want to have a chat about that? Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, at the, on the last meeting, we talked about, I kind of slipped in, I was chairing the meeting, so I wasn't paying attention to what was going on. I was more focused on chairing the meeting. And I did say in the end, to see if we could add something about tourism, ORV access. And we have a system in place now where you can go to the RCMP office and get an ORV permit that lasts for 1 year. And but it's only through the RCMP office. And the problem with a lot of municipalities that are closed, you know, if you're a tourist and you're coming to Sicamous to go ORV and you don't make a appointment or you don't know to make an appointment, you have to take your ORV to the hill. Where a lot of communities, what they're trying to get UBCM to work on, and there has been a bylaw passed, it's called bylaw B121, where, and it's endorsed by UBCM, is where they also, not only they have the RCMP do the permits, but they also have the municipalities do permits. And you can buy a permit, and it also, you can access community to community, and not so much for Sicamous because we're really dense in mountains, you can't really get from community to community, but it helps out to have one permit for multiple communities on designated routes. And what was the third one? The other topic was the permit extension. Right now, the permit, they want to, the permits to align with your driver's license for 5 years. So anyways, it's just, you know, I could read you I mean, I like this. I like our back road resolution we have, because they are shutting down a lot of the decommissioning a lot of the logging roads, and it will affect fire rescue, and it will affect search and rescue as well. So I don't want to mess with that too much, but I did want to ask about the ORV bylaw, which is a little bit more, it's almost on its own. I appreciate Shauna made a couple more to just add on support off-road tourism and with local economy, economic development. But I didn't know how everybody felt about the one I sent out yesterday. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it. Did you all read it?
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it again? So everybody understands it? Not that I'm good at reading this, but okay. it's up to the
You
chair.
have a question for Siobhan? You have your hand up.
Just through the chair, I just want to say ORV is off-road vehicle. So if anyone's listening, everybody knows what that means. So that's our side-by-sides and stuff. And what we're talking about is being able to leave your house or your rental and then zip up the mountain. Just so if people are a little bit confused, that's what we're asking. We're not asking that people can just bomb around town in their side-by-sides. What we're asking is so that they can go from point A to B and to get, grab some gas and then head up the mountain instead of having to drive up and unload. So I think that is really important for the community to know.
We do have some of that now, though, do we not? Like,
But the license,
permit and drive from your house to the car wash or to the gas station or to the staging area at one of the base of the mountains.
Yeah.
Correct.
but you have to get the licensing through the RCMP. So if you're just someone coming into town, you could, I think what Gord's trying to say is that you could either come to municipality or you could get a permit that's more multifaceted. So, if you're not someone that is maybe from here, you're just coming in, that you don't have that time to go in and apply for the permit. So we've got kind of a more encompassing permit that if you've checked all the boxes, that your permit then could come into Sycamore and kind of work across the board.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Evans.
I just wanted to reiterate it's just crucial that we keep those roads open for tourism, but also for emergency response, because in 2021, when we had the fires, for the crews to be able to use those roads to get up there and fight those fires is so important.
Yeah, they had to build a bridge before they could get there. So yeah, that's absolutely true. Councillor Bailey, did you have something you want to add?
No, I was just going to add exactly what Councillor Evans just touched on. We've talked about, I think that multiple times, is that the decommissioning, it sounds fancy. It isn't. It's like their version of decommissioning is putting up trenches and rudimentary roadblocks that ultimately could harm people too, who use those roads. So I mean, this term decommissioning is certainly not the right term for it, and I would even say, like, it's a safety concern. It's much better to, I think, leave these roads intact than to actually spend the money to what is essentially kind of booby trapping them so people don't use them. But, real harm can come from people. But not everybody knows that they're even decommissioned either. So I think that program just needs to go away. And there's a lot of good reasons to make sure these roads are still there. And firefighting, as Councillor Evans said, is certainly one of them.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Beach.
Yeah, for the chair, I agree with Ian wholeheartedly that the decommissioning does not make sense. And because of firefighting, because of the need for access, because of our economic basis, it just doesn't make sense anywhere. So we need to make a statement about that, but also on the top of the off-road vehicles. I feel like we're trying it out. I know I've seen some riding around town. I'm not sure I would go with making it fit with their driver's license, but I think that maybe a year's permit or something that they can get at municipality or with the RCMP. And if they're responsible in their use of the off-road vehicle, then there's no problem. Like, really, honestly, we just didn't want to throw it out there and then have a bunch of yahoos, running through our parks and doing all sorts of stuff, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. So I just would tie it into 5 years. I think people need to earn their those perks, right?
Yeah.
So good behavior.
It's another year.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, Gord, do you want to read it?
Okay, whereas the Off-Road Vehicle Act was intended to create safe and more convenient incidental access to public roads and highways to better connect BC rural communities, to support first-rate ORV trail network, and to allow local governments to expand their trail network to take advantage of economic development opportunities by way of tourism. And whereas the current administration process to obtain a operating permit is permitted under the ORV Act is onerous and non-conductive to convenient incidental access to trails networks connecting multiple communities, as a separate operating permit must be obtained from each jurisdiction. Therefore, be it resolved that the following changes to legislation be made. Only one operating permit required for approved access to multiple jurisdictions and or communities along a connected designated ORV route and trail network issued in any of the jurisdictions or communities alongside the route. And number two, operating permits can be issued by any local RCMP or local government along the designated route. And number three, operating permit term extended from 2 years to 5 years to align with driver's license terms. So basically what they're saying is the operating permit be approved for multiple jurisdictions. So it's basically a designated route, and that's what Murray has here. He has everybody has a designated route where he tells them where they can, you know, if they got to cross the highway or, you know, he does that, and that he would continue to do that, right? And so this has all been vetted by UBCM, and we're trying to get it to go through SILGA and to go through UBCM again, because it's kind of got put on the side burner, whether it be lack of staff at a UBCM or whatever. So we're just trying to reignite it. And I don't know if you're allowed to have, how many resolutions are we allowed to have at
I don't
SILGA?
think there's a number, is there?
There's no limit.
Because it sounds like this should be two. This should be this one, and then that we should be this one. But I do have a question with yours. Sorry, Shauna.
No.
So when it says you're allowed in every jurisdiction, so what if, I don't know, Chase doesn't want you quadding around, but you've got this permit that you can quad around? Like, I guess I'm looking at majority supporting this, but if people don't want you in their community just because you've got this pass, does that mean that?
It's a designated route, so.
Okay, so it's got a list of places where you can go.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
And this is more for the Gold Trail up by Wells Gray. They have a huge trail that they can go from community to community to community.
Okay.
They're trying to encompass the whole province with this, because there's lots of smaller communities like Sayward and all these ones out on the island. They all want it too. So.
I would recommend that council consider this resolution first. And Gord, you've read that resolution out, and introduce that as a separate resolution, because this is very specific to our community, and that's more provincially wide.
Yeah.
And there's gonna have to be provincial regulations. Murray's pretty clear on that, but there has to be provincial legislation in order to support that. So this one is about timber sales, and I think so I think there's two separate resolutions.
Mhm.
Review our recommendation to council. Complete this resolution recommendations before you, and then introduce a new resolution, another simple one. Provide that wording to Shauna once you're finished, if it's endorsed, and then we'll add that in and we can go forward with the two separate resolutions.
So the public access to land, I think we're gonna move and a seconder. Okay, so where's and I will read the new one. Option 2 or?
I don't know.
Yes,
No. Keep the original.
Okay.
you just need to this.
Lots of paper, got lots of paper. Recommendation, whereas the decommissioning, did I read this already?
Yeah.
I did. So let's just call it. All in favor? Okay, passed.
Okay, so
Sorry, I forgot it. We got into such a conversation. I forgot that we'd already read it.
so you've got a councillor that has a resolution, so if you want to ask your councillor to introduce that resolution, you can.
Councillor Bush, would you like to introduce your resolution?
I would, please.
Okay. And Councillor Evans is seconding that. Is there any more discussion on Councillor Bush's? Go ahead, Councillor Bush.
I think Gord, you mentioned 2 years and 5 years.
Yeah, they want to extend it from 2 to 5 years.
It's now 2 years.
Yeah.
And they want to extend it. I mean, I'm fine with it, except that if we ran into problems with, say, an individual, is there a way to
Revoke.
pull their permit or. Yeah, has that been talked about?
Well, they want to put it on a license, so RCMP could pull your license if you.
Yeah.
So it would be
Oh.
through the RCMP, so they just pull your license.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Okay, you want to call a question? Oh,
You have to call,
pardon?
you have to call a question.
Yeah, let's call it, anything else? Okay, let's call the question.
Malcolm.
Malcolm, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wish it wasn't a 5-year term because I think they have to earn it from year to year. So if somebody abuses the privilege, then on a 1 year after, then they can be denied the next year, right? So how do you do compliance over, with a license that is held for 5 years? We're giving away a hammer here that administratively seems easy to apply. If somebody comes into our municipality that's got a license from a different municipality, because we're talking multi-municipalities, abuses the license in our municipality that wasn't even issued in our municipality, and we can't say, well, you're not allowed to come here next year. We wouldn't have that authority.
Nadine, go ahead.
The intent is to have it align with your renewal for your driver's license. That's why the 5 years. So how often you have to go in and get your driver's license renewed, and it would just be another item that would be on your driver's license. All of the criteria the RCMP would still enforce with a motor vehicle would still apply. If you're not doing the things you're supposed to do according to the law, you get ticketed, or you could have your license revoked by the RCMP as a result of those activities. Doesn't matter if you're got the license here or not. If you're not behaving appropriately in any community, whether you're driving a motor vehicle or one of these vehicles, you're going to be ticketed and stopped by the RCMP. And if you don't continue that or don't change your behavior, you lose your license. In this case, you lose your license not only for this particular aspect, but for every motor vehicle. So that's the way enforcement would take place.
Go ahead, Councillor Rich.
Yeah, through the chair, exactly what Dean said. So this is directly correlating with your driver's license. So if you're a twit, you will lose your driver's license, or you will be ticketed on your driver's license and you'll be fined on that. So I think that's a pretty hefty, it's not about, oh, now I can't drive my little four-wheeler around. It's, I can't drive my vehicle. So I think that's pretty big consequences. And when people apply for that, they know that. So you're not going to have people wanting to risk that, we would hope.
That's a question.
We've done this was like our first term. We went through all this years ago. And we also drafted a bylaw, like, so that our bylaw officer can also write tickets as well. And so we do have a draft bylaw. I'm not sure where it is, but I do probably have it in the file. Or on my computer somewhere. That would come later if we want to do that, but it creates our shoulder season tourism that we're looking for.
Perfect. Okay, any more? Let's call the question. All in favor? And that's passed. Thank you. Thanks, Bert.
Yeah, Court.
Thank you.
Okay, correspondence for information. Does anyone want to make a comment about the Kamloops correspondence? I think it's the only piece on there. Hey, do we want to write a letter supporting the Kamloops resolution? Yeah? Anyone? Can I see a show of hands, everyone that wants to support?
So I'm gonna ask the council, I need someone to make a resolution that staff be requested to prepare a letter from the mayor in support from the district of Sicamous for the resolution being prepared by the city of Kamloops, and then we'll send that letter off.
Councillor Evans.
I make that.
I'll second it. All in favor? Okay, we're done. Okay, we're into public input. Anyone on? June's having a nap. Don't wake June.
June's online gambling.
Anyone online? Okay, then we are going to adjourn this meeting, regular council meeting 6:09. On February the 11th. Can I get a mover? Rich, Councillor Evans, all in favor. Okay, we're done. Okay, you guys.